a refugee lawyer, and I've been trying to deal with refugee issues through my practice. I have refugee clientele, but I'm also trying to deal with it in a more general way through advocacy, writing, presentations, submissions, and I've become involved in a number of refugee issues over the decades that's sort of joined with my practice. And one of the issues I've been dealing with is the issue of Sri Lankan Tamil refugees. I see them in my practice, and I've been seeing them since the 80s. It's for me, a long-standing issue. The population has some unique features. One is the long-standing nature of the plight these people face. The Civil War started in '83, and there's still refugees to this day. The Civil War has ended, but in some ways it hasn't solved the problems. There's still problems for many in this population, and for some of them it's even worse, because during the Civil War they had a protected enclave they could go to in Sri Lanka, which doesn't exist anymore. Another unusual feature of this population is that there are large numbers in countries where there's even much larger Tamil populations. That speak the same language, have the same culture, and in theory could easily welcome and integrate these people. But it hasn't happened. I've been involved in dealing with this population in particular for a few years now, and this recent trip I went to Kuala Lumpur and Chennai, and I'm here, and I'm going back to Winnipeg on Saturday. Now, in Malaysia, there's 1 million Tamil nationals. There's about 3,000 refugees. It would seem a simple matter to welcome these people into Malaysia, but it's not happening. They don't have status, they don't have identity cards, they're not allowed to work. I mean, there's lots of Tamil employers, so they work illegally, but then they're harassed by the police. They're often expected to pay bribes to avoid arrest. Many of them are arbitrarily detained. They don't have access to schooling. There's 1,000 Tamil schools in the public school system in Malaysia, but this population cannot access those schools. So it's a very disadvantaged population. India, the situation is far better for this population, but it's not ideal. For any refugee population, there's three solutions. There's local integration, there is repatriation, and there's resettlement. And as far as I'm concerned, all of them should be available, and there's not one solution that's ideal for the whole population, any population. Which solution is best is a case-by-case determination, and it depends on the circumstances of the individual whether that person is best repatriated, locally integrated, or resettled. And for my part, I've been trying to promote all three solutions for this population. When I was in Chennai, I spoke at a seminar there at the University of Madras where I was talking about resettlement for elements of this population, and I'm meeting with the High Commissioner or the High Commission of Canada tomorrow to talk about that. But here, what I wanted to talk about is local integration as a durable solution for this population, local integration in India. Now, superficially, it would seem an obvious solution for this population because Tamil Nadu has 69 million Tamil-speaking people. This population is a small drop in the Tamil Sea of Tamil Nadu, and it should be an easy matter for them to be locally integrated, but in fact it's not happening. They are languishing in an intermediate state in India, and there's no kind of immediate solution in the works. And so I wanted to, first of all, to talk about in a little bit more detail the problems this population faces in India, and then what would be a solution. Now, simply in terms of figures, let me give you some figures. There was a survey done by Dr. Parivalan of Tata Institute for Social Sciences in 2014 that looked at this population. And according to his report, there's about 100,000 of Tamil Sri Lankan refugees in Tamil Nadu. About 66,000 of them are in camps, 111 camps spread throughout the state, widely dispersed, a lot of them in remote areas. There's about 35,000 that are living outside the camps and just registered with the police. Of this 100,000, about 30,000 are upcountry Tamils or hill Tamils, Tamils of Indian origin, whose ancestors went during British rule to work the tea plantations. These 30,000 are for the most part stateless. Sri Lanka denied them citizenship in 1948. Some of this population over the years has got citizenship in either Sri Lanka or India, but the ones that are here that are part of the refugee population are ones that for the most part never got the benefit of these previous grants of citizenship, and as I say, are stateless. This 2014 study surveyed the population, asked them what they wanted. 67% of them wanted to stay in India, 23% wanted to return, 4% wanted to resettle in a third country, and the remaining 6% didn't answer the question. Now, the percentage of Tamils of Indian origin who want to stay in India, as you might expect, is higher for Tamils of Indian origin than Tamils of Sri Lankan origin. 78% of the Indian origin Tamils want to stay in India. 61% of the Sri Lankan origin Tamils want to stay in India. Right now, these people, they don't have status in India, but there's no active push to remove them. There is the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has an office in Chennai, which I visited, and that office conducts interviews of people who want to go back just to determine whether they are truly voluntary in going back. Now, these camps, these 111 camps, are government institutions, and in some ways, the population is well taken care of. They get subsidized living if they live in the camps. They're given a cash dole, they're given accommodations, and they can buy food at reduced rates. They're given identity papers which describe them as refugees. Now, this is just a paper given by the government of Tamil Nadu, and there's actually no refugee determination. It's just given to anybody from this population who asks for it. The people in the camps are not forced to stay in the camps, but they have a financial incentive to do so. Those outside the camps do not get the financial benefits of those in the camps. And as I suppose you all know, Indians do not get these financial benefits. So these are benefits given to Sri Lankan Tamil refugees that are not given to Indians. However, once refugees submit themselves to camp life, they are subject to strictures. If they break the rules of the camp, they can have their benefits reduced, or they can be expelled from the camp. Refugees may and often do extend their living quarters by building rooms adjacent to accommodations allocated to them. These constructions on land not theirs can be demolished by government authorities at any time, and sometimes are. Refugees can be transferred from one camp to another. They may request or oppose a transfer, but the ultimate decision is that of the government. Transfers can and do occur without request and can be and are denied despite requests. Refugees who live in the camps can move out of the camps or move to another camp with permission. Sri Lankan Tamils move both from the camps to the cities and vice versa. The reason a person would move from the city to a camp is financial. In a city, the refugees pay rent. In camp, the land is free. Camp life means mostly living in remote rural areas. The Gumindi Pundi camp, which I visited in 2015, adjoins a town of about 33,000, and it is about 50 kilometers from Chennai. It had, when I was there, 3,000 refugees. Camp residents can work in the town. The children can go to the school, in the town school. Sri Lankan Tamil refugees can access private sector jobs, but not government jobs. This is a substantial limitation given the size of the public sector. As well, government jobs tend to be more stable and better paying than private sector jobs. Sri Lankan Tamil refugees can access schools, but not medical education, and they have difficulty accessing higher education generally. There's been a restricted quota for this population, and they've historically been allowed to join only arts and science colleges, but not the professional colleges, although there are some exceptions. Some universities do not accept any foreign national applicant without a student visa and a no objection certificate from the country of origin, neither of which Sri Lankan Tamil refugees have. Those universities which accept foreign students with only foreign or regional registration office issued certificates expect the students to pay foreign national fees, which are substantial and beyond the means of most Sri Lankan Tamil refugees. There was a court case in 2014 which canvassed the disqualifications of refugees. The Gananda Prakasam was the petitioner. In that case, the refugee petitioned the court that Tamil refugees should be entitled to driving licenses, which they're not, bank accounts, which they're not, movable articles, educational rights, and immovable properties. The application of the children of the petitioner for admission into engineering had been rejected on the basis that they were not Indian citizens. The government of India argued that the government of Tamil Nadu permitted camp refugees to work locally between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to supplement the cash stole. But the government acknowledged that the acquisition of immovable properties is impermissible for this population without prior permission of the Reserve Bank. They also acknowledged that opening bank accounts is permitted only to self-help group members amongst this population, but not to the population generally. The government of Tamil Nadu acknowledged that this population cannot have a driver's license unless the security branch of the police department gives a report that the refugee is not involved in unlawful activities. Despite these disabilities, the court rejected the petition on the ground that Sri Lankan Tamil refugees were not entitled to the same rights as citizens. What rights or benefits they got were a matter of government policy. The quality of the camps varies considerably. Some have very poor living conditions. They are makeshift slums. Others are more habitable. What they share in common is that they are government-run. Even the best of them lack independent living. While each case has to be considered individually, overall the big obstacle to a durable solution for Sri Lankan Tamil refugees in Tamil Nadu, in fact, has been the Q branch. The Q branch of the Police Criminal Investigation of Tamil Nadu was constituted to address extremist activities. It keeps an eye on Sri Lankan Tamils both inside and outside the camps, looking for linkages to the LTTE. In theory, the Q branch is an intelligence component of the local police, doing nothing more than collecting security information. In reality, they are running several of the refugee camps in an oppressive way. They have an inordinate influence over the day-to-day mechanics of what goes on in the camps. the Q branch is not supposed to be part of the administrative structure running the camps. In practice, several of those responsible for running the camps abdicate their administrative powers to the Q branch, which establishes onerous rules. If a refugee leaves a camp for more than daytime work, in some camps the refugee needs permission from the Q branch. Leaving the camp without permission or staying outside beyond the duration of permission granted generates Q branch suspicion and threats. The Q branch has turned refugee camps into open prisons. Q branch operatives do not operate according to the presumption of good faith. The Q branch can be overly rigid and domineering in controlling the day-to-day lives of innocents. The general atmosphere the Q branch generates is one of bullying, spying, intimidation, and harassment. Now, this is, of course, in one perspective, an Indian problem, a Sri Lankan problem, but it's also a Canadian problem and an Australian problem and a New Zealand problem, because we have people coming to Canada on boats from India, from Chennai, trying to get away from the Q branch. In 2009, there was this boat, the Ocean Lady, started in Chennai, went to Malaysia, came to Vancouver. In 2010, there was another merchant vessel, the Sun started in Thailand, but with Indian passengers, came to Canada. In 2012, there was a boat that was on its way to Australia, picked up water, was taken by a Singapore ship to the Emirates, and some of them were then resettled in Brazil, and I met them there. Came from India, talking about the Q branch. So the Q branch is so oppressive, people are fleeing India to get away from it, which, as I say, is an anomalous situation, given the large welcoming Tamil population in Tamil Nadu. Now, a durable solution, in my view, for this population means a path to citizenship. The Sri Lankan Tamil refugees in India consist of two components, the Tamils of Indian origin and Tamils of Sri Lankan origin, sometimes called the Jaffna Tamils. And the citizenship solution is different for each. Both the Constitution of India and the Citizenship Act of India allow for citizenship for persons of Indian origin. The Constitution of India provides for citizenship of persons, one of whose parents or grandparents was born in India, where the person is born abroad, is living abroad, and is registered with an Indian consulate. The Citizenship Act has a wide number of paths for citizenship that are all, unfortunately, closed off, but in theory could be made available. The Citizenship Act of India has provisions for citizenship of a child born in India, and many of these people now, I mean, the Civil War since '83, many of them have been born in India and lived their whole lives here. According to the Citizenship Act, the status of the child depends on the date of birth. A child born before July 1st, '87 is a citizen by birth. A child born on or after that date, but before December 3rd, 2004, is a citizen if either of the parents was a citizen of India at the time of birth of the child. A citizen born in India on or after December 3rd, 2004 is not a citizen if one of the parents is an illegal migrant, which the Sri Lankan Tamil refugees are considered to be. The Citizenship Act provides for citizenship by descent, again with variations by date of birth. A person born before December 10th, 1992, outside of India, of an Indian father, becomes a citizen of India on birth. On or after December 1992, either parents, a citizen of India, will do. If a father of a person, if a person is born before December 10th, 1992, with an Indian father, or either parent after that date is a citizen by descent, the birth has to be registered at the Indian consulate abroad, which for most of this population, or almost all of them, hasn't happened. The Citizenship Act allows for citizenship by registration by persons of Indian origin, ordinarily resident in India for 7 years. A person can apply for citizenship even if not a person of Indian origin, if the person is married to an Indian citizen and has been ordinarily resident Indian for 7 years. However, both of these provisions about marriage and about Indian origin are excluded if the person is an illegal migrant. So this avenue also is cut off. A person is defined to be a person of Indian origin if the person or either parent was born in an undivided India. The Act also has a form of acquisition of nationality simply if people had been here for a long time, ordinarily resident for 12 years. But again, this avenue is cut off for illegal migrants. Even if you've been here for more than 12 years as an illegal migrant, you cannot apply for citizenship. The Act has a form of dual nationality granted to overseas citizens of India. Now, this is available, obviously, only to people who are of Indian origin and not of Sri Lankan origin, but they have to be overseas. And what's more, once they get this status, they do not have full citizen rights. In particular, they're not granted equality of opportunity in public employment, which is an issue for this population. Now, according to media reports, and I haven't seen the actual circular, but according to media reports, there's a 1983 government circular that says that the government of India will not entertain applicants of Sri Lankan refugees for grants of Indian citizenship. Now, the circular is old and predates the amendments to the Act, which cut off all these avenues of citizenship for illegal migrants, and so it may have been generated to prevent these people as illegal migrants to get citizenship before the Act was amended. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in 1959 stated in Parliament that refugees should return to their homeland once normalcy returns there. So, to a certain extent, that policy has prevailed and has affected this population. Now, that's the current situation, and I have a couple of suggestions to make. One is to withdraw the circular that says that the government of India is not to entertain application of Sri Lankan refugees for the grant of Indian citizenship, but the other has to do with the bill that is now before Parliament. There is a bill, it's introduced in July 2006, to amend the Citizenship Act. It is proposed by the Minister of Home Affairs, Rajnath Singh. The bill provides that minority communities from Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Pakistan would not be treated as illegal migrants for the purpose of the Citizenship Act. And as I indicated to you before, there's all these avenues of being born here, being a long stayer here, being married here, being Indian origin here, that are in theory available, but they disappear if you're a legal migrant. And so what this bill would do is remove this disability for those three populations. And my suggestion is the Sri Lankan Tamil community be added to the bill. They are a minority community in Sri Lanka, so it would be consistent with the spirit of the bill. The majority in Sri Lanka is Sinhalese. Why, in fact, Sri Lankan Tamils were excluded from the bill, we're left to speculate. I haven't heard a government position on this. So, in my view, the bill represents an opportunity. It would be a simple matter for somebody in Parliament to present an amendment to the bill to include Sri Lankan Tamils as a minority population in the bill. And the very presentation of this amendment would then provide a forum within Parliament to discuss the situation of these people. Getting parliamentary time and attention to Sri Lankan Tamil refugees in an ordinary situation would be very difficult. But here there's a ready-made forum which I suggest that people interested in this issue should take advantage of. Now, a durable solution in India for Sri Lankan refugees, that means citizenship, does not mean, and I'm not advocating that every Sri Lankan Tamil refugee in India should get citizenship. We know for a fact that at least 23% of them don't even want it. They want to go back. And that number may increase as the situation improves in Sri Lanka. The figure of 23% was done according to a survey that was conducted at the time the Rajapaksa government was in place. And now, of course, the Sirisena government is in place, which is not as aggressively hostile to the Sri Lankan Tamil population as the Rajapaksa government was. There are, of course, even a few who want resettlement in third countries. Indian citizenship is not a solution for all Sri Lankan Tamil refugees in India, but it is surely a solution which should be available. So those are my remarks.